Most people think glucose control only matters for people with diabetes. But research shows up to 80% of people experience daily glucose spikes, and older adults often feel the effects more, even without diabetes. These hidden swings show up as more aches, lower energy, and fuzzier thinking. Doctors don't usually explain how everyday routines, medications, and meals all pile on to make this worse. But here's the good news. You don't need medical training to smooth things out. 10 practical, senior-friendly hacks, cheap, doable, and sometimes funny, are coming up. And yes, I can't stop you from losing your glasses, but sugar crashes won't be the excuse. So why does it feel like your blood sugar plays tricks on you, even when you're not overdoing the sweets? Why seniors face bigger glucose swings as we get older? Our bodies simply don't handle glucose the same way they once did. Cells respond less efficiently to insulin, meaning glucose lingers in the bloodstream instead of being tucked neatly away into muscles or the liver, in the gradual loss of lean muscle and an increase in abdominal fat. And the result is slower glucose clearance and bigger swings from even ordinary meals. For seniors, that half sandwich or baked potato can hit harder than expected. One simple place to start: include a little protein or fiber-rich veg at the beginning of a meal to soften the spike that follows. Digestion and metabolic responses also shift with age. Carbs that a younger body would handle quickly can leave older adults with elevated glucose for hours, creating that mid-afternoon slump or lasting stiffness in the joints. Too much sugar at once doesn't just fuel energy dips. It sparks low-level inflammation that wears on the body over time. A practical adjustment: swap juice or white bread for slower digesting options like whole fruit or grain, so the bloodstream isn't flooded all at once. Inflammation, fatigue, and mental fog, often blamed on just aging, are often tied to these swings. Less muscle and more body fat means glucose sits stubbornly in circulation, keeping energy low and joints achy. At the same time, the pancreas has to work harder to release insulin, straining its capacity. Think of your cellular energy factories. They run best on steady fuel, but when drowned in a sugar deluge, they sputter. An easy daily step: aim for even a short walk after meals. 10 minutes of movement helps muscles soak up glucose efficiently. The bigger picture is clear. Repeated spikes are not benign. Large imaging studies now show that higher glucose in midlife is linked with measurable brain changes years before dementia is diagnosed. For daily life, that means the same glucose patterns driving fatigue or inflammation may also chip away at focus and memory. Keeping glucose steadier isn't just about comfort, it's about protecting long-term clarity. This sets the stage for one of the most pressing questions older adults often have. How much do these glucose swings affect the brain itself? The cognitive connection, blood sugar, and memory. Ever walked into a room and paused, thinking, wait, what did I come here for? It happens to everyone, but for many older adults, these lapses feel like they're happening more often. And what's becoming clear is how much those moments tie back to blood sugar stability. Memory gaps and mental fog aren't just getting older. Frequent glucose swings can quietly sap attention, slow processing, and make everyday recall less reliable. The brain is one of the hungriest organs in the body, burning through about a fifth of your daily energy. Unlike muscles, it doesn't store reserves for later. It depends on a steady stream of glucose to fuel its circuits. When blood sugar jumps and crashes, the supply gets unstable. That shaky fuel delivery disrupts how neurons talk to each other, which shows up as struggle focusing on conversations, forgetting a task mid-step, or feeling mentally hazy after certain meals. Research backs up what many seniors feel in daily life. In one large cohort study from the Framingham Heart Study, people with higher fasting glucose showed brain structure changes equal to years of added brain aging, even without diabetes. That finding helps explain why even small sugar shifts add up. not only in terms of long-term dementia risk, but also in day-to-day clarity. Repeated spikes create inflammation and oxidative stress that wear down memory-related circuits, especially in the hippocampus. That's the brain's memory hub, and it already shrinks with age. Glucose instability accelerates the process, leaving older adults at greater risk for slips in both long-term and working memory. This isn't just about recalling an event from years ago. It can also be something as simple as forgetting the phone number you just looked up or blanking on why you opened the refrigerator. Steadier sugar means steadier recall. It's important to point out that these lapses don't automatically mean dementia. Everyone forgets from time to time, but seniors with larger sugar swings tend to experience these moments more intensely and more frequently. And the difference is tangible. When glucose is steadier, suddenly there's less fog, conversations stick more easily, and routines feel easier to manage. Attention is another area strongly affected. Stable blood sugar provides the energy your brain needs to filter distractions. Picture yourself at a family dinner. If dessert sends your glucose soaring and then dipping, you might find it harder to follow overlapping conversations. What feels like poor concentration or even hearing trouble can actually be neurons struggling with uneven fuel. The long game matters too. High and inconsistent glucose has been tied to elevated risks of Alzheimer's and vascular dementia. Those conditions differ in cause, one linked with protein buildup and inflammation, the other with damaged blood vessels. But unstable blood sugar fuels both pathways. It's easy to brush off minor lapses as normal, but evidence suggests instability over years sets the stage for faster decline. There's also the question of mood. Many older adults notice that large swings leave them irritable or restless. Emotional shifts add a frustrating layer to memory lapses, leaving seniors not only forgetful, but also more likely to feel impatient in the moment. Keeping glucose steadier reduces both, improving interactions with family and friends. Decision-making and planning are energy-hungry brain tasks, relying on consistent glucose delivery. A senior balancing finances, making medical choices, or simply mapping out a busy day may feel muddled when sugar levels swing suddenly. What feels like poor judgment often reflects metabolic turbulence. Steadier levels can restore confidence in those choices, which matters deeply for independence. Even sleep plays an important role in memory. Deep sleep is when new information gets locked into long-term storage. But uneven glucose at night can cause frequent waking, leaving memory consolidation incomplete. This is why keeping blood sugar calmer during the day translates into better sleep and stronger recall the next morning. The encouraging side of all this is that stabilizing glucose helps preserve clarity. Clinical work with older adults shows that even modest changes, reducing big ups and downs over several months, lead to steadier moods, sharper focus, and fewer memory slips. Small adjustments pay off in visible ways, from remembering medication times more easily to holding your train of thought without effort. So what can you do today? A simple action is to start breakfast on the savory side. Think eggs, vegetables, or a protein-rich option instead of pastries or juice. Morning spikes often carry through the day, and leveling them early means your brain is fueled more evenly for everything that follows. Consistent glucose may not stop aging, but it slows the wear and tear on memory circuits, keeping your thinking clearer for longer. And that clarity carries not just into learning and recall, but into sleep, mood, and the ability to enjoy the day without constant mental fog. Of course, cognition isn't the only place glucose stability shows its hand. Many seniors notice challenges around rest too, lying awake for hours or waking at 2 a.m. despite feeling tired. Those restless nights aren't always about caffeine or noisy neighbors, and the answer often goes back to the same place: what blood sugar is doing in the background. Sleep troubles tied to nighttime spikes. One of the most overlooked reasons seniors find themselves awake at 2 or 3 a.m. is the way nighttime glucose spikes affect sleep. A heavy dinner or sweet evening snack can send blood sugar soaring. And although you might fall asleep quickly, the problem often shows up later. As glucose drops in the middle of the night, the body releases stress hormones to prevent levels from going too low. That sudden jolt is enough to interrupt deep sleep and leave you fully awake in the dark. Clinical and CGM-based research confirm this pattern, showing that late spikes reduce sleep quality and make the next day feel less restorative. Another common experience is repeated bathroom trips. High glucose in the evening pushes the kidneys to filter out excess sugar, and extra water goes along with it. The result is osmotic diuresis, more urine output. Seniors often assume nighttime urination is purely age-related, but much of it actually tracks back to blood sugar. Waking several times to use the bathroom fragments sleep, making it harder to reach and stay in the deepest, most restorative stages. Even if you eventually fall back asleep, the quality is cut short, leaving you tired in the morning. Poor sleep then worsens glucose control the following day. When rest is interrupted, hormones like cortisol, ghrelin, and leptin shift in ways that drive cravings for refined carbs and sweets. Seniors often notice stronger desires for bread, pastries, or afternoon snacks after a restless night. That creates a vicious cycle. Late evening spikes lead to poor sleep, which then hampers glucose regulation, encouraging the very cravings that trigger another rough night. Over time, this loop leaves both energy and mood drained, and it adds pressure on other health concerns. To illustrate, imagine finishing dinner with a slice of pie. You drift off easily, only to find yourself awake a few hours later, restless, and maybe even sweating lightly. It feels random, but what's happening is a mini glucose crash followed by a stress hormone surge. For many seniors, this kind of sleep disruption repeats night after night, gradually cutting into quality of life. The good news is that small adjustments can break the pattern. The first strategy is to shift the day's largest meal to midday, when the body is better equipped to process glucose. Keeping the evening meal lighter, focused on lean protein, vegetables, and some healthy fat, reduces the size of the nighttime spike. This way, sugar levels are less likely to swing sharply while you sleep. Second, a short bout of movement after dinner makes a big difference. Just 10 to 15 minutes of walking or light housework helps muscles absorb glucose, lowering the burden on the bloodstream. Think of it as using up fuel before bed, so it doesn't come back to disturb you during sleep. Third, keep any dessert tied directly to a balanced meal rather than having it alone later at night. Eating sweets after a full plate of protein and fiber slows down absorption, causing a smaller rise compared to dessert on its own. Even simple additions, a salad starter with vinegar or pairing fruit with nuts, help flatten the curve. Finally, if you want a bedtime snack, choose one with protein or fat instead of sugar. Options like plain yogurt, a hard-boiled egg, cheese, or half an avocado provide a slow release of energy that steadies your glucose until morning. High-carb snacks, by contrast, tend to spark the exact spikes and crashes that lead to early morning wakefulness. When seniors use even one or two of these tools, improvements come quickly. Falling asleep feels easier, nighttime awakenings happen less often, and mornings bring more steady energy. As glucose regulation improves alongside sleep, those mid-afternoon crashes ease, making it possible to enjoy the day more fully. The cycle reverses. Steadier evenings build better nights, and better nights support steadier days. Breaking free of nighttime spikes doesn't require major lifestyle overhauls. Small adjustments, timing dinner earlier, walking after the meal, choosing a smarter snack, are enough to make sleep less fragile. Over weeks, many seniors notice a ripple effect. Clearer mornings, less irritability, and stronger focus. With rest restored, other glucose-friendly habits become easier to maintain since fatigue is no longer working against them. of course, evening habits are only part of the bigger picture. Something else can silently raise glucose at just the wrong times, even when meals look healthy and routines feel balanced. It's not always about food choices at all. It can be hiding right inside the pill box. Medication mix-ups, when prescriptions interact with sugar. Some of the most common prescriptions given to older adults carry an often overlooked effect. They can shift blood sugar higher, even if nothing in the diet changes. That's why many seniors are puzzled when glucose readings creep up despite eating the same breakfast, lunch, and dinner they always have. The changes aren't from the meals themselves. They're from how certain medications interact with glucose control. And because older adults often take several prescriptions at once, this is not a rare issue. It is part of daily life, and a big reason why managing glucose numbers can feel so confusing. Blood pressure medications are a natural place to start. Diuretics, sometimes called water pills, remain an essential tool for controlling fluid retention and reducing hypertension. But among this group, thiazide diuretics are known to raise glucose levels, especially at higher doses. The mechanism involves dropping potassium levels, which makes it harder for the pancreas to release insulin properly. When insulin secretion is weakened, sugars stay in circulation longer. Loop diuretics, such as furosemide, can pose a different challenge, interfering with how muscles and fat cells take glucose in. For seniors on these medications, even a balanced meal can be followed by an unexpected rise in blood sugar. Beta blockers represent another familiar treatment for blood pressure and heart disease. By blocking certain nervous system signals, they slow and steady the heart, but at the same time, they can reduce the early release of insulin after eating, the precise phase that helps blunt spikes. Without that first insulin push, glucose climbs higher and stays elevated longer. Non-selective beta blockers, like propranolol, tend to have the strongest impact in this regard. It matters, though, which specific drug is used. Some newer beta blockers, including carvedilol and nebivolol, have been found in studies to produce less disruption, or in some cases, even improve insulin sensitivity. Understanding these differences is useful not because seniors should try to swap medications on their own, but because it highlights why clear, careful conversations with prescribers and pharmacists matter. Cholesterol-lowering statins fall into the same category of widely used medicines with a metabolic side effect. These drugs deliver proven cardiovascular benefits and are critical in reducing the risk of heart attacks and strokes. However, consistent evidence from large trials and genetic studies shows they are linked to a modest increase in the risk of new-onset diabetes. The increase is typically reported in the single-digit to low-teen percentages, with higher-intensity statins carrying the most notable effect. Importantly, clinicians emphasize that the benefits of preventing cardiovascular disease usually outweigh this risk, but the message for seniors is clear. Regular glucose monitoring while on statins helps catch subtle changes early. Steroids add yet another layer of complexity. Prescribed for a wide range of inflammatory and immune conditions, they are highly effective for reducing pain, swelling, or immune flare-ups. The trade-off is that they stimulate the liver to release more glucose into the bloodstream while dampening the ability of muscles and fat tissue to absorb it. The dose and duration of steroid use make a huge difference. Short courses often cause only a mild, temporary rise, while long-term or high-dose regimens can cause persistent elevations that complicate glucose control. Here again, patients won't necessarily feel the shift right away. It's something only regular checks can uncover. Calcium channel blockers, another long-standing treatment for hypertension, mostly have a neutral effect where glucose metabolism is concerned. They are generally considered low risk, though in unusual circumstances, such as overdose, they can suppress insulin release and raise sugar levels. For most seniors, calcium channel blockers are not the biggest concern. The larger issue comes when multiple drugs with modest glucose effects are layered together in the same regimen. thiazide diuretic may contribute slightly, a beta blocker adds pressure of its own, and then a statin or a steroid lands on top. The combination amplifies the effects, resulting in frequent unexplained readings that confuse patients who believe they are doing everything right. Polypharmacy, the use of multiple medications at once, is practically the rule for older adults. It is very common to juggle prescriptions for heart disease, blood pressure, cholesterol, inflammation, thyroid, pain, or sleep in parallel. Each plays a role, but in combination, their effects on glucose become unpredictable. Often, once glucose begins to rise, an additional prescription for diabetes management is added to the mix, which can make seniors wonder why their disease seems to be getting worse despite carefully following instructions. But many times, the culprit is not diet or activity. It's medication interactions quietly influencing the numbers. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the size of the pill box or frustrated that everything seems to make glucose worse, seniors can take a proactive step. A useful practice is to ask before adding a diabetes drug, could any of my current medications be nudging my sugars up? That single question opens the door for prescribers and pharmacists to review the medication list with glucose effects in mind. And unlike worrying or guessing, it gives a concrete, immediate action step anyone can try. One important fact to know is that medication-related glucose changes are sometimes reversible. Discontinuing or switching to an alternative drug often improves sugar levels, which is why catching the trend early is so important. For example, someone noticing higher readings after starting a new diuretic might find those changes improve later if the prescription is adjusted, though only under their clinician's guidance, without early checks. However, the rise could go unnoticed until it becomes a bigger health concern. That is where testing becomes the anchor for management. A senior taking steroids for a flare, for instance, can plan to check glucose more frequently during that period. A person moving to a higher intensity statin can track numbers in the weeks that follow. With monitors, whether traditional fingerstick methods or continuous sensors, it becomes possible to see exactly when a medication impacts glucose. This awareness helps distinguish whether the pattern stems from food choices, stress, or the medications themselves. Pharmacists are crucial allies in this process. Because they routinely review drug interactions, they often notice patterns doctors may not immediately explain. Bringing all medications, including supplements and over-the-counter items, for review can reveal interactions or conflicts that otherwise slip by unnoticed. Herbal remedies or natural supplements can also affect blood sugar handling. A pharmacist's overview provides an added level of safety and clarity, helping seniors manage the complexity more effectively. Individual differences also make a major impact. Not every older adult responds to the same drug the same way. One person may tolerate thiazide diuretics without noticeable glucose shifts, while another may see levels climb within weeks. Genetic factors, nutrition, body composition, and concurrent prescriptions all influence the outcome. This is why general warnings often seem inconsistent. Some patients are fine, others notice clear effects. But rather than assuming the information is contradictory, it's better to view each drug as a variable that needs checking, not as universally safe or unsafe. Seeing the trends in personal glucose data is the most reliable guide. Doctors also understand that hyperglycemia is not the only danger. In frail seniors, hypoglycemia carries a bigger immediate risk from confusion to falls. That is why, if a glucose-lowering drug is added on top of diabetogenic medications, physicians often lean toward newer options with lower hypoglycemia risks. The choice reflects the entire prescription picture, not just the glucose level itself. It underscores the complexity of prescribing for seniors and reinforces why individualization matters so much. What makes the biggest difference for patients is understanding and involvement. Too many older adults only discover their medication's glucose impact months later, after repeated blood tests show higher values. By asking simple questions, checking numbers more often during medication changes, and reviewing drug lists with both doctors and pharmacists, seniors reclaim a role in the process. The result is less confusion, fewer unnecessary prescriptions, and an approach that feels more like problem solving than blame. When hidden medication effects are addressed, seniors often feel a surge of relief. The sudden, unexplained spikes that once left them frustrated now make sense. With that clarity, energy stabilizes, moods lift, and glucose management feels less like an uphill battle. And while understanding the pill box helps smooth daily numbers, there are still other, overlooked forces that influence how steady or unstable glucose feels. Sometimes the signal comes in the form of stiff joints or morning aches that seem stubbornly tied to what was on last night's plate. Joint pain and inflammation, the glucose trigger. Blood sugar doesn't just affect energy and sleep. It plays a direct role in how much pain joints produce day to day. When glucose runs high, it sets off chemical changes inside cartilage, tendons, ligaments, and even the joint lining, making them more fragile and inflamed. For older adults, this means that fluctuations in blood sugar aren't only about fatigue or brain fog. They often show up as stiffer knees, aching hips, and swelling that lingers long after a meal. At the center of this connection are compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. These form when glucose attaches itself to structural proteins like collagen, making tissues rigid and less able to move smoothly. Cartilage and tendons lose flexibility, ligaments lose resilience, and the cushioning in the joints diminishes. Once AGEs take hold, the body can't easily remove them. They accumulate over time, leaving the surface of joints rougher and more prone to friction. Clinical and experimental studies indicate that diabetes and high glucose may accelerate osteoarthritis progression by increasing AGEs and inflammation. That's why seniors with both arthritis and diabetes usually report more pain and faster joint decline than those with arthritis alone. Inflammation adds another layer to the damage. Elevated glucose drives the immune system to release cytokines such as TNF-alpha and IL-6. While these chemicals are part of the body's normal defense system, too much of them inside the joint environment accelerates breakdown instead of repair. The cartilage erodes quicker, synovial fluid becomes less effective at lubrication, and mobility declines earlier than expected. Cartilage isn't just wearing out from hard use, it's being corroded from the inside out by a chemical storm fueled by glucose. This is especially challenging because seniors already face muscle loss as they age. A 2021 study noted that insulin resistance links directly with weaker muscles in people dealing with osteoarthritis. Less muscle strength means less support for joints, and when that combines with inflamed cartilage, discomfort grows quickly. The outcome is simple. Seniors with both blood sugar instability and reduced muscle mass often feel achier after meals and recover more slowly after activity. Painful flare-ups become a feedback loop of weakness and inflammation that makes moving around less appealing. Yet movement remains one of the best defenses against further decline. Tendons and ligaments don't escape the effects either. Research shows that hyperglycemia alters the chemical structure of collagen fibers in tendons, making them less elastic and more prone to microscopic injury. These changes aren't just seen under a microscope. Seniors often notice them as increased soreness around the knees or shoulders after normal tasks like gardening or household chores. Over time, weakened tendons can lead to chronic tendinopathies, leaving mobility compromised right when it matters most for independence. Even the lubrication system of the joints is disrupted. Synovial fluid, which allows bones to glide smoothly against each other, thickens and becomes less effective when inflammation rises. The result can sound and feel familiar, crunching or popping when standing up, stiffness after sitting, and a grinding sensation during walking. While many people assume these changes are simply normal aging, the evidence is clear that glucose surges push the process along more aggressively. Medications can complicate this relationship further. Certain arthritis drugs may calm inflammation and even reduce diabetes risk, while steroids, often prescribed to manage pain and swelling, raise glucose levels and intensify the very inflammatory cycle they're meant to treat. That creates a constant balancing act for seniors managing both arthritis and glucose control. Discussing these interactions with doctors helps ensure that treatment for one condition doesn't worsen the other. From the senior perspective, what matters is how all these processes feel in daily life. High-carb meals don't produce symptoms right away, but hours later the impact shows up in stiff joints and heavier steps. This pattern repeats until it's seen as unavoidable decline, when in fact much of it is linked to choices around glucose control. Recognizing that inflammation is chemically fueled by sugar rather than purely mechanical, where changes how seniors can respond. The practical upside is that stabilizing blood sugar offers relief that's both noticeable and sustainable. Lower spikes reduce the formation of ages, calm inflammatory signaling, and slow cartilage breakdown. Seniors often report that by tightening glucose swings, joints feel less swollen, mornings become less painful, and recovery after activity is quicker. While osteoarthritis itself may not disappear, its intensity and progression can be managed in meaningful ways. Small, accessible changes make a measurable difference. Pairing carbohydrates with protein and starting meals with vegetables can blunt spikes, keeping post-meal blood sugar steadier. A short walk after eating, just 10 minutes, helps muscles pull glucose out of the bloodstream more effectively. These minor steps reduce swelling and stiffness without requiring radical diets or complicated plans. For most seniors, the improvements show up not in lab results alone, but in the comfort of everyday movement. Protecting the joints in this way doesn't just mean fewer aches after a meal. It preserves independence. Research consistently shows that when arthritis and diabetes meet, mobility declines faster. A cane or walker may be needed sooner, and social and physical activity often shrink. Reducing glucose-fueled inflammation changes that timeline, giving older adults more years of active living, stronger social connections, and better overall health. Every reduced spike is an opportunity to preserve that mobility. Understanding glucose's role in joint pain reframes the daily experience. Instead of assuming stiffness and swelling are inevitable, seniors can see them as signals influenced by blood sugar choices. That knowledge puts control back in their hands. Manageable adjustments in diet and routine lower inflammation, ease pain, and slow wear on fragile joints. Relief doesn't rely only on stronger medications or surgical fixes. It starts at the table and continues with the decisions made after meals. And yet, knowing how sugar drives joint pain doesn't solve another challenge older adults face: how to handle food options in settings outside their direct control. At home, it's possible to choose portions and plan meals in a way that tames spikes. But in social settings, family gatherings, special occasions, or community potlucks, the food landscape looks very different, and the pressure to join in is strong. The question becomes how to protect glucose while still enjoying those important moments. The social eating challenge. Social occasions can be some of the trickiest times to keep blood sugar steady. Whether it's a potluck, a holiday buffet, or a grandchild's birthday party, the setting almost always involves heavy comfort foods and sweets. For older adults, the pressure is double. No one wants to be the person skipping cake, but no one wants to spend the next day foggy, tired, or in pain either. The challenge isn't whether to participate, it's how to enjoy the food and company without the glucose repercussions. The encouraging reality is that social eating doesn't have to mean extreme sacrifice. Research shows that the way you arrange and time your plate can make all the difference. In fact, controlled trials reveal that simply changing meal order, starting with vegetables, then protein and fat, then finishing with carbs can cut peak glucose by roughly 50 to 75% for certain meals. That's a remarkable shift from an adjustment so subtle that no one at the table even notices. The first and most effective strategy is meal sequencing. This means starting with vegetables, then moving to protein, and finishing with starches and sweets. Fiber in the vegetables forms a barrier that slows carbohydrate absorption, and protein and fat follow that up by further modulating release. In practice, it's as easy as starting your plate with salad, green beans, or roasted vegetables, then moving on to chicken or fish before having rice, rolls, or dessert. To everyone else, it just looks like a normal plate. To your body, it means a far gentler glucose curve that won't leave you sluggish later. The second strategy is what's often called clothing your carbs. Instead of eating starches or sweets naked, you dress them up with protein or fat that slows their release. Have bread with peanut butter, spread avocado instead of eating toast plain, or pair fruit with cheese instead of eating it alone. Something as classic as grapes with cheese or melon with cured hem already does this. These combinations look natural in social settings, blend in with the food culture, and still protect your body from an exaggerated spike. For seniors, this one adjustment turns common party foods into balanced choices without any awkward explanation. The third and simplest strategy is movement after the meal. Muscles act like sponges for excess glucose, pulling it out of circulation even during gentle activity. A 10-minute walk around the block with family, helping clear dishes, or even a light game outside with the grandkids counts. It doesn't need to be exercise. The goal is just to move. Seniors who walk after a meal consistently record smaller spikes and report more stable energy into the evening. From the outside, it looks like spending quality time. Inside, it's protecting energy and joints for the next day. For dessert, specifically, timing matters as much as portion. Always anchor sweets to a main meal rather than eating them separately hours later. When cake follows dinner, the vegetables, protein, and fat already present slow absorption and take the edge off the spike. The same pastry eaten on an empty stomach produces a far sharper rise. So seniors don't need to skip dessert altogether. They just need to eat it in sequence at the table and not as a midnight bite. It's a one-sentence guideline that saves a long night of tossing and turning. All four adjustments are quiet, practical, and etiquette-friendly. Nothing about them requires drawing unwanted attention or rejecting food offered by family. They simply reshape the order and pairing of what's already on the plate, plus add 10 minutes of movement. For aging adults who worry about being different during gatherings, these approaches are designed to blend in, support health, and keep joy at mealtimes intact. The payoff goes well beyond glucose graphs. Seniors who follow these small steps often find they're sharper after dinner conversations, less achy the next morning, and able to smile through dessert without guilt. Research reinforces these everyday observations. Studies consistently show improvements not only in spikes, but also in fatigue and inflammation when these sequencing, pairing, and movement strategies are adopted. The differences may feel small at first, a clearer head at the end of a party, a better night of rest, but stacked over dozens of social meals, they add up. This is also where long-term protection quietly builds. Every significant spike avoided reduces wear on joints, strain on blood vessels, and pressure on the brain. Even if seniors don't notice each individual improvement, they preserve energy and clarity by preventing silent damage. Social gatherings happen regularly across a year, holidays, birthdays, community events, and sticking to these low-effort tactics provides compounding benefits without ever overshadowing the celebration. Practical recall makes this easy to remember. At a buffet, start with salad, follow it with protein, and finish with starches or sweets. If fruit is on offer, pair it with cheese or nuts instead of eating it alone. Save sweets for the table at the end of dinner. And once the meal ends, add movement. in the form of a walk, cleanup, or a light activity with others. That is the core toolkit. Eat in a protective sequence, dress up the carbs, and move afterward. The simplicity of these actions is their strength. Seniors don't need mathematical carb counting or public explanations to keep health intact during gatherings. The shifts are silent but powerful, letting them engage socially and emotionally without glucose sabotage lurking in the background. These strategies restore a sense of choice and remove the guilt from meals that are meant to nourish more than just the body. What many older adults find most reassuring is that these approaches are achievable in any setting. Whether the spread is homemade casseroles, catered trays, or holiday dishes, the same three strategies apply. The body doesn't distinguish between a wedding buffet and Sunday dinner. It responds to sequence, pairing, and activity the same way. Embracing these steps is less about self-control and more about using physiology in your favor. And importantly, these adjustments don't require special or expensive foods. They work with whatever happens to be served on the table that day. Seniors often imagine that protecting health means purchasing exotic health items, but the truth is, it's simply about how everyday foods are eaten together. That becomes even more relevant when thinking about the resources seniors actually have to work with outside the party. The everyday groceries that fit within their budget. Because when the gathering ends and the leftovers are gone, a bigger reality sets in. Most retirees face fixed incomes, and health often feels like it comes with a high price tag. That tension between wanting to stay well and needing to save money is another obstacle seniors talk about often when it comes to nutrition and glucose control. Budget-friendly blood sugar fixes. Managing glucose, well, doesn't have to mean spending more money at the grocery store. In fact, some of the most effective fixes are the least expensive. Simple, budget-friendly choices not only support steadier blood sugar, but also make healthy eating realistic for seniors on fixed incomes. The idea that you need special superfoods or costly supplements is misleading. Fiber-rich staples like beans, oats, and vegetables already provide the same glucose-slowing benefits these pricier products claim to offer. Marketing often tells a different story. Exotic powders, seeds, or imported fruits promise energy and balance. Yet their price tags often exceed what's reasonable for everyday shopping. This can make older adults feel like staying healthy is only possible with an open wallet. But research consistently shows that relying on long-standing staples, affordable foods found in any grocery store, is more than enough to lower spikes and calm inflammation. The solution is not new or hidden away. It's already been in kitchens for decades. Beans are a perfect example. Packed with fiber, protein, and slow-burning carbohydrates, they smooth out glucose absorption so energy lasts longer. Compared with refined starches, beans leave you fuller, cutting down on snacking and reducing those sharp highs and lows. They also cost pennies per serving. Canned beans require only a quick rinse before use, making them accessible for anyone who wants minimal cooking. They slip easily into soups, chili, or salads, and because they stretch into several servings, they're dependable for both budget and health. For seniors dealing with arthritis or low energy, this simplicity saves effort while still delivering strong nutritional support. Oats are just as reliable and even cheaper in many cases. A large bag of rolled oats may cost only a few dollars, yet provide weeks of breakfasts. Oats are rich in soluble fiber, especially beta-glucans, which improve insulin sensitivity and lower cholesterol. They're easy to prepare. Just add hot water or milk, and can be flavored with cinnamon, nuts, or a small amount of fruit. Unlike processed cereals that raise sugar quickly, oats digest slowly and keep energy steady. The results show up in less morning fatigue and improved focus. For anyone thinking glucose-friendly meals require pricey new items, oats prove otherwise. Vinegar is another underestimated ally. Studies show that taking a tablespoon of vinegar with a carbohydrate-heavy meal can reduce the post-meal spike by up to 30%. That's almost the same effect marketed by expensive supplements, but vinegar costs a fraction of the price. It can be used in salad dressings, marinades, or simply mixed into water and consumed before eating. While its taste takes some getting used to, the science is clear: it flattens glucose curves efficiently and cheaply. It's the type of tool that hides in plain sight, while flashy products crowd store shelves. Then there are frozen vegetables, which often get overlooked in favor of fresh produce. It's a myth that frozen is less nutritious. In reality, vegetables are frozen just after picking, locking in nutrients at their peak. They're also less expensive, last far longer than fresh, and reduce the risk of food waste. Bags of broccoli, spinach, carrots, or mixed varieties can be portioned out as needed, making balanced meals quick to assemble. For seniors on tighter budgets, frozen vegetables are both practical and essential. They align with health goals while keeping costs under control. Paired with beans, oats, or eggs, they become the core of many sustainable glucose-friendly meals. Health organizations emphasize approaches that are easy to follow without advanced nutrition training. A widely promoted option is the plate method, recommended by Diabetes Canada and the CDC. Fill half the plate with vegetables, 1/4 with protein, and 1/4 with carbohydrates. It's straightforward enough to use at any meal, requires no special gadgets, and supports stable blood sugar by balancing fiber and protein with energy-providing carbs. Most importantly, it places no financial burden on seniors. Frozen vegetables for 1/2, beans or oats to cover part of the carbs, and affordable proteins like chicken thighs, canned tuna, or eggs for the remainder create a complete meal. To make this even clearer, picture a simple weekly grocery run with just 4 staples: 1 bag of rolled oats, 1 bag of frozen mixed vegetables, a couple cans of beans, and a bottle of vinegar. Together, these form the backbone of multiple glucose-friendly meals at a fraction of the cost of trendy products. Breakfast can be oats with cinnamon, lunch could feature beans mixed with vegetables, and dinner might combine frozen broccoli with eggs or a low-cost cut of chicken. Add vinegar to a salad or drink it diluted before dinner, and you've got an affordable strategy grounded in science. Remembering that list, a bag of oats, frozen veg, beans, vinegar, makes practical shopping decisions effortless. Nutrition experts also encourage small adjustments that cost little to nothing. Seasoning food with herbs, lemon juice, or vinegar instead of relying heavily on salt and packaged sauces reduces sodium intake without losing flavor. Stretching meals further with beans instead of more expensive meats adds satiety and fiber while cutting costs. And one of the most effective changes is also one of the cheapest, replacing sodas or sweet drinks with water. Daily sugary beverages drive strong glucose spikes, while water hydrates without adding cost. Adding citrus slices provides variety at almost no additional expense. When people compare the cost of healthier staples with snack foods, the math becomes clear. A bag of chips may appear cheaper at checkout, but it only offers a few servings while delivering sharp glucose highs. In contrast, beans, oats, or frozen vegetables purchased at the same price create multiple meals and protect glucose stability. Looking at nutrient per dollar rather than lowest sticker price reframes shopping choices. This changes the perspective from what might feel restrictive to what's actually an investment in strength, clarity, and independence. Diet culture often pushes chia seeds, flax powders, or rare extracts as indispensable. While these foods do contain nutrients and fiber, seniors don't need them if the cost presents a barrier. Beans, oats, and frozen vegetables already deliver fiber that slows digestion and supports balanced blood sugar. The difference isn't in the label, but in the nutrient profile, and affordable staples already provide the winning formula. Understanding this helps seniors stick with changes that are both practical and sustainable. Confidence grows when people realize they already hold the tools they need. Instead of depending on expensive packaged meals or specialty groceries, retirees can cook from familiar, low-cost foods. This builds independence while also preventing the discouragement that sometimes accompanies diet messaging. Knowing that effective options are available in any regular store at regular prices allows seniors to feel in control, and this sense of control is critical for long-term adherence. These budget strategies work not only for solo meals, but also in shared households. Cooking beans in a pot creates several servings, leaving leftovers available throughout the week. Oats can be portioned for one or two without effort. Frozen vegetables can be measured by handfuls instead of whole bags, reducing food waste and giving flexibility in cooking. Small, practical details like these keep glucose-friendly eating manageable, no matter how many people are sharing the kitchen. What matters is consistency. Sustainable adjustments, like replacing soda with water, starting meals with vegetables using beans and oats frequently, and seasoning simply may not seem flashy, but they stack up over weeks into visible energy improvement and reduced aches or cognitive fog. When carefully chosen foods stretch further in the budget, seniors no longer feel forced to choose between saving money or building health. At its core, the message is straightforward. Effective glucose management doesn't rely on exotic supplements or trendy diets. It relies on balancing affordable, fiber-rich staples, paying attention to portions, and making small shifts that cost little but add up significantly. The plate method offers a free, simple guide, and a few pantry basics can drive results much stronger than any glossy advertisement suggests. Once the pantry is stocked with budget-friendly tools, the next question becomes how to amplify their effect in daily life. Because as powerful as meal choices are, the benefits grow even further when habits outside the plate play their part. One of the most overlooked yet effective of those habits requires no expensive equipment at all, and it starts with the way we move. Gentle movement. Exercise without a gym. Gentle movement turns out to be one of the most powerful tools seniors have for keeping glucose steadier. It doesn't require fitness equipment or structured workouts. What matters most is finding comfortable, low-strain ways to activate muscles each day, especially after meals when spikes are most likely. Research consistently shows that even small amounts of movement make glucose easier for the body to handle, and the options available for older adults are broader than most people realize. One of the simplest and most reliable habits is short activity after eating. When muscles contract, they act like glucose sponges, drawing sugar out of the bloodstream for immediate fuel. Monitoring studies confirm that even 10 to 15 minutes of gentle movement after a meal leads to measurable reductions in post-meal glucose. That movement doesn't need to mean an organized workout. It could be walking slowly through the backyard, pacing a hallway, or heading down the sidewalk at a comfortable speed. For seniors who feel winded or unsteady, the distance and pace don't matter as much as the consistency. That short effort pays off with steadier energy levels and fewer long afternoons of sluggishness. For people who live with arthritis, balance issues, or limited mobility, chair exercises provide an accessible entry point. Simple moves like seated marches, lifting knees one at a time while sitting, or gentle leg lifts from a chair activate the major muscles of the legs. Add in slow arm circles or light resistance band curls, and both upper and lower body show improvement. Studies and clinical practice guidelines note that regular chair-based exercise improves strength, circulation, and mobility, while also reducing post-meal glucose excursions. In other words, this approach works even if standing or walking for long periods isn't possible. Seniors often find reassurance in knowing they can participate fully while seated, which takes away anxieties around safety or balance. Water-based activity is another effective and often overlooked option. The buoyancy of water supports the joints, making it easier to move with less pain. Seniors can walk through the shallow end of a pool, try light water aerobics, or swim gently if they feel comfortable, because water naturally provides resistance. Each motion engages more muscle groups without requiring heavy equipment. The National Institute on Aging highlights aquatic exercise as one of the most joint-friendly activities for older adults, and participants often report it feels restorative instead of straining. It isn't only the body that benefits. Many seniors mention better mood, less stiffness afterward, and improved sleep following regular pool sessions, factors that all reinforce steadier glucose control in daily life. Alongside water movement, Tai Chi offers another route for those who prefer a low-impact, calming practice. The slow, flowing motions seem simple, yet they require balance, coordination, and gentle engagement of many muscle groups. Evidence shows Tai Chi improves stability and reduces fall risk, while also producing moderate drops in glucose after practice. The benefit is twofold. While the physical flow uses fuel from the bloodstream, the meditative aspect reduces stress. Because stress hormones like cortisol can worsen glucose spikes, Tai Chi helps from both the body and the mind. For seniors who want something less formal than exercise classes but more structured than random chores, Tai Chi proves to be a manageable, soothing option. Everyday tasks shouldn't be underestimated either. Folding laundry, sweeping the floor, watering plants, or vacuuming each recruit muscles and count as real activity toward glucose management. Researchers find that older adults who add movement into routine chores see smoother glucose patterns than those who remain sedentary after meals. This works because what the body recognizes is simple muscle contraction, not whether the movement is happening in a gym. Seniors are often surprised to learn that tidying up the living room after dinner or taking out the trash carries the same metabolic benefit as a light exercise session. It reframes chores from being a burden into being part of a built-in health plan. For those looking for a small dose of fun, unstructured activity, like dancing in the kitchen provides a playful yet effective option. Putting on music and moving while waiting for tea or during a TV commercial break may feel lighthearted, but it still gets the heart rate up, engages multiple muscle groups, and burns fuel. Laughter and enjoyment add another dimension. Movement feels less like a prescription and more like a natural part of life. Seniors often find that enjoyable activities are the easiest to continue, which means the glucose benefits extend further simply because consistency is easier to maintain. What ties all these movements together is accessibility. No matter the health background or current mobility level, there is a door open. Some may choose walking. Others may find security in chair-based routines. Several may prefer aquatic therapy, Tai Chi, or chores woven into the day. With glucose, consistency matters more than intensity, and these options are designed to be sustainable. The research is clear. Seniors do not have to chase athletic achievements to support their health. They only need to choose the forms of motion that fit best and repeat them most days of the week. The encouraging finding is how quickly small changes show results. Many seniors notice sharper thinking and less afternoon fatigue in just the first week of regular gentle movement. Joint discomfort lessens, mood stabilize, and sleep becomes deeper. These outcomes reinforce the habit, making it easier to keep adding activity over time. And unlike strict exercise regimens that depend on special equipment or high effort, most of these approaches fit effortlessly into typical daily routines. The practical lesson is simple: keep muscles active however you prefer. Whether that is through sweeping floors, chair marches, water walking, or a short stroll after meals, each option brings blood sugar back to steadier levels. No gym, trainer, or treadmill is required. Gentle, repeated motion is powerful enough. Seniors who once felt excluded from fitness conversations discover that the tools for balance were already in reach. With that understanding, the question becomes what other basic adjustments carry similar outsized benefits. If just 10 minutes of light movement can calm glucose swings, what might a handful of equally practical daily steps do when added together? That's where the focus shifts next, to a straightforward set of everyday hacks seniors can actually use right away. 10 hacks every senior can actually do. Let's put everything into practice with a clear, easy list. These are 10 straightforward hacks that older adults can weave into daily life. Each one helps smooth out sugar swings without requiring diets, gyms, or expensive products. Think of them as small levers, easy to pull, but powerful once used consistently. Hack 1. Start the day with a savory breakfast. Protein first, no sweet cereal or juice. Morning spikes shape the whole day, and this one choice sets a steady tone. Hack 2. Begin meals with vegetables. A few bites of salad or greens first slow down carbs that follow. Fiber cushions the sugar impact in a way the body notices quickly. Hack 3. Move gently for 10 minutes after meals. Studies show even short walks or light chores cut glucose peaks in half. It's not exercise class. It's simply timing your movement when the body needs it most. Hack 4. Pair carbohydrates with protein or fat. An apple with cheese or bread with tuna keeps energy stable while preventing that fast rise and crash. Seniors only need to remember, never let carbs travel alone. Hack 5. Add vinegar before or during meals. Studies show vinegar can reduce spikes by about 20 to 30%. A simple dressing on vegetables or a tablespoon diluted in water is enough. Hack 6. Make lunch the biggest meal of the day. The body uses food more effectively earlier, which means a lighter dinner helps sleep come easier and mornings feel clearer. Hack 7. Review medications with your doctor or pharmacist. Common prescriptions like certain blood pressure pills, steroids, and statins can subtly affect sugar. Asking about their impact gives clarity and control. Hack 8. Stock budget-friendly staples in the pantry. Frozen vegetables, canned beans, rolled oats, and vinegar offer the same glucose benefits as expensive superfoods without straining the budget. Hack 9. Keep dessert inside meals, not apart from them. Cake after dinner is easier on the body than cake as a snack later in the evening. The order makes a bigger difference than most realize. Hack 10. Choose protein-rich snacks at night. Cheese, nuts, or plain yogurt release energy steadily, while crackers or cookies spark spikes that wake you hours later. Simple enough to list, simple enough to remember, and simple enough to do. These are not rigid rules. They are optional tools, each one capable of shaping the day in its own way. Pick the ones that fit your routine, maybe 2 today, 3 next week, and let them settle in. The goal isn't perfection. It's consistency. Just adding 1 or 2 hacks improves energy, stabilizes mood, and softens the wear on joints. Breakfast alone can change mornings. Vinegar alone can shrink spikes. Swapping one evening snack can restore better sleep. The payoff appears quickly because the body responds immediately to steadier fuel. This approach respects daily realities. Not everyone likes cooking, shopping, or planning in detail. That's why these hacks center on adjustments rather than overhauls. A little vinegar, a short walk, a change in order. None require money, memberships, or special foods. And none take away the enjoyment of family meals. They are designed to slide in quietly, blending with normal routines. The encouraging part is how much independence they give back. By shifting when and how food is eaten, seniors reduce fatigue that interrupts activities, cut down pain that limits mobility, and think more clearly through conversations and tasks. These outcomes bring dignity into daily life. They matter more than lab numbers because they make every hour easier to live. So here's the call to action. Pick just one hack to try this week. Maybe it's a savory breakfast. Maybe it's walking for 10 minutes after dinner. Maybe it's vinegar on salad. Do it regularly and notice how your energy, sleep, or joint comfort changes. Once the difference is felt, build from there. Because steady glucose is not about restriction or complicated plans. It's about keeping daily life strong, mobile, and clearer for longer. And that connects directly to what matters most as the years advance. How better glucose protects golden years. Better glucose control protects more than just numbers. It helps preserve memory, supports steadier moods, and keeps joints less inflamed as the years go on. Studies even show that elevated glucose can contribute to subtle brain injury in younger adults, which makes consistency even more important later in life. For seniors, stable levels also support stronger mobility, more restorative sleep, and reduced inflammation that otherwise wears down comfort and independence. If you try one new habit this week, whether it's a post-meal walk or adding vinegar before dinner, you may notice tangible changes. Always check with your clinician before changing medications or starting new exercise. And if one of these small shifts helps you, share your win in the comments so others can learn too. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more practical health tips.